All right, guys. Today it's myself, Cody, and I got my cousin Collin, and we have been exploring this interesting conversation topic in my morning walks. I wanted to bring it all to you guys because it's a really deep concept, and to explain it, here's Collin.
All right. Yeah, there's a guy I just found. He started doing the circuit a little while ago, but now he's been hitting some of the other podcasts. I've never heard him before, but he worked in mergers and acquisitions in China. So he was a Delta guy, Green Beret, I should say. I think he was Delta, but I'm not sure. But pretty well-rounded individual, and I was just incredibly impressed with his prescription of how the global system is operating right now, because that's kind of the topic of discussion. Everyone has operating off of theories, and mostly has bits and pieces of it, and we're all trying to kind of collate it all together to figure out, okay, what's the general objective and tactics, who are the power structures, who are the factions, how is this whole thing working? Because if we've learned anything in the last 10 years or 20, 30, it depends how long you've been paying attention, we do not live in anything, we do not have a democracy. That does not exist. The word exists, the system exists, but it does not operate, or even a republic. It doesn't operate as we think it should or how it should, and we've been trying to figure out like what the hell the problem is, and
Mm-hmm.
this is a part of that process of unwinding that. So we're going to talk about the kill chain. So the guy, his name is E.M. Burlingame. I'll pull up his profile in a bit. I highly recommend following him and checking his stuff out. He doesn't have a lot out there yet, but he's been writing articles. He's got a couple books coming out. Very interesting. I'm enraptured with this guy. So I think we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to pull the screen up, and we're just going to start with talking about what a kill chain is. So here it is. I'm using Grok for a lot of this stuff. Obviously, with these large language models, you've got to be careful. You got to go and source your material, and you can't just go off of what you're reading. I've sourced, this is actually what it is. So I try to do my best to make sure I'm sourcing stuff and not just speaking a priori without substance or basis. A kill chain is a structured model used primarily in cybersecurity and military contexts to describe the stages of a cyber attack or a targeted operation from initial planning to execution. It helps to understand, detecting, and preventing attacks by breaking them down into predictable phases. So this is actually the military process. This is not from EM or Burlingame. This is an actual process. He kind of lifted this process and reapplied it and described it from the financial sector standpoint. And when you look at this process from a financial standpoint, it opens the whole world up. And it makes a lot of things make a lot more sense instead of making things more confusing.
Yeah,
and it's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple concept.
Well, you were surprised that I'd even heard of the idea of a kill chain when you were talking to me this morning.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I never understood the process. I've heard about it. To me, it was simply about target identification. Bannon describes it in war. If you want to win a war, you identify your target, you create a giant crater where the said target was, and then you backfill said crater with all your stuff. That's effectively how you win at war. And that, to me, was what the kill chain was. And that's like the most simple, distilled version of it. There's many steps to get from that, and even these steps are incredibly simple, and there's all different kinds of processes and things that need to happen in between all these things to make it happen. But these are like the 7 major chapters of the process of destroying your enemy.
Yeah, it was because I heard the idea of kill chain is first you identify who the target is, and then you recon it. And then, but you're going to read all that because it's exactly right there on the screen.
Yeah. Obviously reconnaissance. If you don't have situational awareness, you don't even know who your enemy is. You don't know what they have, what the objective is. Although in the last few wars, that seems to not have mattered as much. From a layman's perspective, it looks like our wars were a giant waste of time. From a different perspective, there was a larger game afoot. And maybe we'll get into that today. We'll see. So obviously, before you go in on your enemy, you got to recon them, figure out what they have, what their perimeter is, what defense systems they have, what assets are they guarding, what do you want to blow up, what do you want to take over, what do you want to hit, what's collateral damage, yada, yada, yada. Next is step 2, weaponization. Attacker creates the appropriate, it says payload. And a lot of this, by the way, I'm going to step back. A lot of this was instituted with the Vietnam War, with the McNamara project. And what's that institute? I forgot. I'll remember it.
The Whiz Kids?
No, it was that. It's something institute. It was like the something corporation. The Rand Corporation. That's it. The Rand Corporation. They were the contractors that for the Vietnam War, they came up with the metrics, a business model of prosecuting a war. And the Vietnam War was kind of like a giant experiment. I mean, it was many things. It was mostly experiments to kind of see how to prosecute modern warfare at that time. And they were using business models to measure and predict and to create a business model or a warfare model to get to your logical outcome. And what was interesting, there's a great movie. It's made by a liberal dude that he's got his head up as you know where, but he makes good movies. Fog of War.
Which one?
I highly recommend people watch that. That's really
Fog
good.
of War, yeah.
Yeah, and he interviews McNamara, and McNamara talks about how he made a horrible mistake in this whole because they turned the metric system, the Vietnam War, into body counts. That was your measurement of success. Wait, you're telling me, so how many people do we have to kill to win? Is that the idea now? And when you're doing
it's a metric.
Insurgency, but when you're fighting an insurgency where you have military forces erupting from within the population, everyone's a target. So you got to kill the whole country by that logic. And that just flew right over their heads, or they didn't care. I mean, that's like why, based on that model, that guy, Curtis LeMay, he was like, dude, we got to nuke them. If we're going to win based on this model, I want to drop nukes on the Ho Chi Minh Trail and cut them off permanently so they can never come back down again. And according to the model, if we wanted to win that war, he was correct. That should have been, if we wanted to win based on that model, which that wouldn't have been, would that have been winning? No. That would have been a horrible disaster. And it would have been had so many other effects geopolitically. There were a lot of lessons that we should have learned in Vietnam that we did not. We basically learned all the wrong lessons. And here we are. So delivery is step 3. So that's getting the infrastructure in place to make the payload arrive from point A to point B. Exploitation, once it's executed, you take advantage of the vulnerability of that initial attack to start. Once that spear hits, you bowl your way into the system and start grabbing shit. And then you start permanently installing your systems. That's step 5. So you create a land bridge between you and your target and create permanent infrastructure in place. And then after that, once you got your installations all set up, that could be physical, but in cyber, it could literally be controlling servers, having plant. This could be used in all kinds of contexts, as we'll see in a bit. And then after that, it's coordination and building efficiency within the system so that all the different nodes within the system you just hijacked can start talking to each other to further cordon off your enemy or the adversary and start allocating assets back into the central system. Okay. So once step 7 takes place, you have actions and object. The attacker achieves their goal, which, that's basically, we get to after action report. Okay, did we get what we want? What could we do better? Where'd we fall? Where'd we fail? And then you plug the holes and rinse, wash, repeat, do it over again. So that describes a cyber attack. Military, find, fix, track, target, engage, assess. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually, it's pretty common sense when you think about it. If you want to take something or steal something from somebody, it's casing a joint like a bank robbery. It's the same thing. You can apply this to any aggressive action. Aggressive in the sense you're not building it up from within your own system. You're seeing another system and you want to go in and grab its stuff and bring it in. Any aggressive action, if you want to do it effectively and you actually want to win, you have to pretty much follow these steps. So that was EM's, this is his profile. That was his, hang on, I didn't switch it. That was his, here it is. He basically took that kill chain model and applied it to the financial system, and it's not that it's his specific idea. He's pointing out what these people are already doing. So just like that system, if you just step back and look at it, if you're going to win in any fight, you have to go through all those steps. We know that in our own personal lives. If you've ever taken aggressive action toward anyone, especially when you have planning phases involved and you plan to win, you have to follow those steps. So you have anything you want to plug in there, or you want me to keep going?
I totally agree with you.
Okay. All right. So in the Roman Empire, there's this notion of the Praetorian Guard.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on the Praetorians, but the Praetorians were basically the generals. They were the security around the principal, which was the emperor or the centralized node of power. Then you've got the ring, and the inner ring is always what? The Praetorians, because they have to guard the principal. That also puts them in a very unique position for what? Influence, intelligence, controlling choke points to make sure information doesn't come into the central hub. And that's literally what is happening all over the world. We have a Praetorian class of people that have installed themselves that act as, you hear the term gatekeeper thrown around, well, that also means Praetorian. These people that get in the way of whatever the principal is attempting to accomplish in their objective, or even up to assassination. The vast majority of assassinations, all of them require some insider to open up the window for that to happen. Case in point, Butler, Pennsylvania. Literally the one roof where a sniper would hit was clear and open and nobody was there. Why? The Praetorians let down their guard and created a window for that event to happen. So This is an old problem. This goes back to any imperial kingdom. The King's
Same thing
Guard.
happened at Daily Plaza with Kennedy. They left an opening and it was filled. I don't know if it was a conspiracy. I think it was several things, but definitely they left the window open and someone put a rifle in it.
If you're going to take a shot at the king, you better not frickin' miss. And the only way to guarantee, not even guarantee, but to do total risk mitigation is you have to control the security perimeter around the king. Because if you miss, you've now just become primary enemy number one, and that will backlash on you tenfold. Because it won't take long to unwind that if you lose, if you miss. So it's almost, and a side note, the thing at Butler is so weird. I don't even know. It was so obvious, and all the cameras were there. It just, the whole thing was so weird that I'm like,
it was so staged.
I know, but it was like obviously staged. You know what I mean? It was a little too obvious. If they really wanted to kill him, I could think of 1,000 easier ways to do it than that. I lost audio. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I just turned it off real quick.
And a part of it goes, did they want the show? Was that a part of it? That's a good theory. That could have been it. It could have been they wanted the American people to see their dear leader's head blown off on a stage on public television. What that would have done to you want to start a collapse in the United States? That probably would have been the kickoff for it. And then you backfill that event with all these other events that are starting to happen and make it worse. And
then publicize it. It was the first. It was the first one that CNN had ever gone.
The first one. Yep.
Sorry about my young daughter in the background, guys.
Yeah,
I am a dad.
Me too.
They followed it. They put it all up. But the ironic thing is on that one, on that little bit of a rabbit hole here, how that turned the whole tide of everything for Trump. Him going up and doing the fight is the boost he needed in his campaign. Not that he was faltering real bad, but definitely he won because of that. Backfired, definitely.
Yeah, and my contrarian mind goes even... I'm not even the first one to say... Like Michael Yon, who's one of the top war correspondents, he's like, look, I'm not saying it was staged, but I am saying that if you wanted to do a cut ear visual moment... Mm-hmm. I mean, you remember the mainstream media was all calling it like it was staged. There's no way this is real.
Mm-hmm. And they were trying to blame us for staging it.
I know, but I hold space that, look, I despise the media. I despise all those people. They're horrible, evil, manipulative
pieces of shit, yeah.
Yeah.
But the idea as a shooter, to me, of shooting someone's ear on purpose.
No, I'm saying that taking a blood packet or even a little thin razor that's attached to your fingernail, that's classic WWE shit. It's not hard to do. Easy. You duck down, it's doable. Now, there were a few people shot in the crowd for effect. I'm not saying I even believe this. I'm just saying you have to think like this in this world. You have to open up for all possibilities because we are living in the land of mirrors right now. Yeah. You think some guy's your friend and he's the guy really running this other thing. It is an absolute labyrinth of insanity. It's just, and I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying the potential, if the event happened differently and it was a poisoning or something a bit more subtle, I'd be like, okay, that was probably a real hit, which I've been told from people in that circle around the president that there's been many poisoning attempts. This is not the first one.
Really?
There's actually been dozens. Yeah, there's been dozens of attempts at his life. They just don't advertise them. No, there's been a lot. So now it got overt toward the end when he was about to come into office, and it's I don't know. When you're playing at this level of gamesmanship, you've got doubles, you've got things that look real that aren't real. I mean, this is why people that get into conspiracies become schizophrenics, because they start believing everything. So I'm not saying I believe any of it. I think it's more likely that was probably a real assassination attempt. I just lean that way if I had to. Put a gun to my head, pick one. I'd probably say it was probably a real attempt. Man, are they really that incompetent? It's that bad?
Well, I have my favorite saying, I don't know where I heard it. Never give to conspiracy what can best be explained by incompetence.
Yeah, but that's what the people that run the world always want you to believe, because these people, once you study them, are highly competent people. I mean, they didn't get to run the world for no reason. Now, but that is a true statement. That's what somebody says when they're caught. It was an accident. It was an oopsies. Oopsies. At a certain point, you go, there may be no conspiracies, but there's no coincidences. Especially when we're talking about timelines.
I don't believe in coincidences, but I do believe in incompetence. So,
all right, I'm going to start reading through this. Go ahead. No, absolutely incompetence exists, but incompetence also acts like a veil. They're called useful idiots for a reason.
Yeah.
You want to have stupid people at certain levels, but you want safeguards so that they can't go above their station and start doing stupid things and ruining what you're trying to do. But they're great at being the scapegoat for problems. What was Joe Biden? He will forever be known as the scapegoat president, in history, in my opinion. In the future, people are going to get savvy enough to realize the president hasn't run anything for a very long time.
Well, that's the problem that Trump's coming across, is he's trying to take control back from the delegation. It's been all delegated out. He's trying to take it all back. And that's where the fight's coming from.
Yes, I would say that there is definitely a faction that has realized they have allowed the Praetorian class, the bureaucrats is what we call them today, anyone within the rings protecting the principle, that they have taken over the kingdoms. And we have that problem all the way down to our local level. So I know that's real. That's a real problem. And it does make sense to me that there is a group of people out there, the people that are more established in the world, these older families, that are sick of these managerial third-party parasites coming in and grafting off of their family's legacy to basically run their own plays. That pissed me off, and you don't have to be a saint to be pissed off about that. You can be a demonic, you can be a psychopath and still want to push back on that. Because a lot of this comes down to good and evil. This is beyond good and evil. This is about self-preservation for a lot of people, what we're seeing unfold right now. Which is, that helps us kind of believe what we're seeing a bit more, because I can believe that people want to act in self-preservation. It takes a lot for me to believe that somebody wants to be an actual noble and be willing to die and lay his body on the barbed wire for the commoners. That's a tough one for me to buy into. Mm-hmm. It's possible, and I'm sure there's a few out there, but are they in those rings of power? Maybe.
Your guess is as good as mine, because I don't know. I've seen so many things, like in Butler and stuff. I've seen so much just incompetence. People say it was a conspiracy. No, he was an idiot, and I've witnessed it. So it's hard for me to get past that, I guess.
Yeah, but again, are they idiots for allowing the primary sniper position to be open?
No, they allowed it. Yeah,
they allowed it.
And
so it wasn't stupid. Yeah. They used stupid people, but the smarter people are above the dumb people. The dumb people do dumb shit. Guys that strap bombs to their chest, they've been brainwashed to run in and go to Valhalla because they're low IQ idiots.
Yeah, and they think they're going to get 72 virgins. I don't understand that, but that's a different topic for a different day. What were we talking about here with the financial kill chain? Let's go back onto that.
Yeah. So I'm just going to start. I'm going to start reading this opening salvo here, and just to get down to the financial. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm just going to read this first part. This is from Burlingame. In the murky realm of global finance, financialists, Praetorians yield a devastating predatory financial strategy known as financialist kill chain. The 7-step process. Sorry, 1 second.
That's okay.
The 7-step process infiltrates nations, traps them in debt and tax slavery, strips their assets and productivity, and abandons them and their people in ruin, all while amassing vast profits. From John Perkins' Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Highly recommend people read that if you haven't read that. We learned of its impact on developing nations, but even great powers are not immune. The British Empire was hollowed out by the continental European banks that invented it all. Where did the wealth of the British Empire go? Not into Britain, which is now a trash heap of collapsing kingdoms, states, and former colonies. Since the 1600s, when this system was put into place, continental Europe was rebuilt into splendor from the ground up 3 times over from the wealth of the British Empire and its former colonies. I lived in Germany for a long time. I traveled all around Central Europe. I can attest there's a big difference between the UK and Central Europe.
Yeah.
Massive difference. It's gorgeous. All the old buildings are still there. Everything's built up. It's all protected. It's a beautiful tourist trap. I highly recommend going to see it someday. assuming they don't fall into collapse too, which they probably will. The United States has been nearly undone over the last century. In the century, the parasites steadily abandoned the British Empire as it could no longer sustain the rapacious slavery of the continental financialists. Where is all the vast productivity and wealth of the U.S. empire? China and Russia, after the communists were used to try and kill and chain them in the last century, stand firm against this fate, willing and able to war with the entire West to stop it. With the continental Europe's impoverished, the British Empire gone, and the U.S. teetering, where will the financialists turn next? With no other host for the parasite to jump to, they must move to bankruptcy, the breaking up of the United States and Britain and her former colonies and crown estates to take the assets and resources necessary to reset the accountable slavery system for another 400 years. This is the only real war of our time, and we must face it, remove all the continental European parasitic financialists once and for all. So these are the 7 steps of the financial kill chain, just like we just talked about earlier. Okay. Step 1, infiltration and influence. Financialists embed themselves in a country's leadership, posing as advisors or allies. Klaus Schwab literally said this. We penetrate the cabinets. He literally was saying this. They say all this out loud when you really listen. Klaus Schwab, the head of the... Well, he just got fired, but the former
shit-canned that guy.
The WEF. Yeah, I mean, it's just... And then they got another crazy German Bond supervillain to take over for him.
Yeah, he definitely really was fun. Like a Bond supervillain, the way he's...
You should see the new guy. He's even creepier. Although Klaus Schwab was perfect, like Blofeld, just from James Bond. Just perfect. Perfect casting. Number 2, debt entrapment. They push unsustainable loans. Hey, we gotta ramp everything up. You don't have a strip mall? Hey, let's get a strip mall. And this goes all the way down to the local level. And if you really watch your city managers and how they have designed their cities, it all comes from these UN world bankers, like economic models for small cities. You notice they want little districts with apartments that go up, little shopping, entertainment, consumer things with fake
city
jobs
beautiful.
Around it. It's little tiny micro smart cities is what they're the new model for everything. They're building one literally right down the road from me.
That concept
they're
is
all
called,
over the place.
Well, yeah, but that concept has a name. It's called City Beautiful.
Yes.
And
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, city or beautification. Beautification could be planting a shrubbery, a tree. But these guys want to pack a bunch of people into a small area for maximum wealth extraction. It's a good business model. It makes sense, but only if you have a consumer basis to draw from. Well, that's coming to an end. I don't know if you've looked at credit card usage, but and rates ain't coming down for a long time.
What do you mean, it's going through the roof?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, the amount of people that are overblown on their credit cards, I mean, the majority of people I know are maxing out their credit cards now. Really? I've been able to stay on top of it, but it's because it's all fake to them. They've not been... We went to school for what? So we went to school through 8th grade, 12 years, and then some people went to college for another 4. So we went to school for 16 years, and no one ever decided to tell us the downside of debt. If anything, you got to leverage debt. You got to re-leverage it.
Well, the thing that I find interesting is reading Complete Money Makeover and all this. Your grandpa gave me one of those books, Complete Money Makeover, when I was at his house. But
was that a Dave Ramsey book?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's obsessed with Dave Ramsey. Ramsey is hilarious to watch. It's so funny.
Oh, I like Dave. I like watching his TV. I like watching the YouTube where he's just in awe of the question.
He's like, what's his name on Family Feud?
Steve Harvey.
Yes, he's like, he does the Steve Harvey face. It's like just white man, old white grandpa version. Just like, what did you say? And people love that. That's like his.
I love it when he goes, have you ever watched this? Have you ever listened to this radio program?
No, and he's generally right. The problem with Dave Ramsey is he doesn't understand any of this. he doesn't understand the systemic problems. He's talking about, well, no, you gotta save up for a rainy day. And then he didn't. I don't know. It worked 30 years ago. It doesn't make any sense today. What he's trying to tell people, it's still good advice. Stay out of debt as best you can. I'm not saying get in debt, but it's not good.
Well,
it leads
the
to a lot
problem we
of
have
problems,
right now is money is given away so easily. And they want you to run up just a line of debt. And then all of a sudden,
yeah. Now you're on the hook,
I guess,
for the rest of your life.
I'm either the oldest version of the millennials, because I was born in, I think the cutoff is June of '82 from Gen X to millennial, or I'm the youngest Gen Xer. I don't know. I remember after I got out of high school, all my friends got so heavy in debt. They force you to get into debt to go to college, and then they go get these worthless crap degrees, and then they think they're going to be millionaires when they're done, and then all of a sudden you have $250,000 worth of debt.
Yeah,
and this is the whole financial kill chain. They want it's enslavement.
Locks you in, and now you're working your ass off. You're on the hamster wheel. You're on the wheel of samsara for the rest of your life. Because we are the money generators. If you look at it from a financialist standpoint, the human is the ultimate money generator. What good is a mine if you don't have people to work it? You can only extract. Land is only useful if you can utilize it. How do you utilize it? Labor. Labor is always the issue. So this is why the communists, as much as I detest these people, they're right in the sense that these capitalists are gaming the system to consolidate assets into a giant. That's what hedge funds basically have become, is vehicles of identification and management of these assets for the top families. And so now we've just, instead of having an accountability chain, we have this nebulous ghost class of people that we don't even know who they are. They can pay for their names to not exist on the internet if they want to. And that's why everyone's confused right now. And this is the reason why. So, let's keep going here. So debt entrapment, we were just talking about that. Asset identification. This is really important because you got to have, if you're going to go into a system and hijack it, you got to figure out, okay, what is our prioritization of like what we got to take over? What maximizes? If you buy a Starbucks, yeah, you're going to get a lot of wealth generation out of that, because out of the consumer basis of people buying coffee, and you inflate it 500% of what it's actually cost to do. That's a free 200%, on top interest, that you take off.
What did you hear? So did you hear the conspiracy behind Starbucks?
The mermaid?
No, they're the biggest unregulated bank ever known to man.
No, I've never heard that. That's interesting. That's so interesting. I doubt that, but that's interesting that if they are financing things, which I don't doubt, that wouldn't surprise me at all. All these institutions eventually do that.
Get people to give them money for coffee on their, what is it, prepaid coffee stuff, and
yes.
Yeah, so
and then they sell that as a financial tool on the market.
They say that right now, Starbucks. I'll have to send you the link.
It was on that.
It was on the fat electrician exposed it under his fat files. Mm-hmm. They have like $4 or $5 billion of unclaimed asset because people go out and they buy these $50 gift cards, and the coffee costs them like 25 cents to make. They charge you $5 for it, and then they get the money. They don't have to charge you interest to hold your money or pay you interest to hold your money. They have it all. Yeah. Starbucks is horrible.
Yeah. No, I don't know if they're the biggest, but that's very interesting because I bet you a lot of these consumer basis businesses do stuff that. Because let's define financing for people real quick. Because a big part, the first thing I learned when I was, one of the first things I learned when I was studying economics in college was terminology is everything, because it's a separate language. It's like lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
They take very simple concepts. They attach all these different labels and names to it. If you talk about points, like on the stock market, oh, we lost 100 basis points. Well, we're talking about, we easily could just say, well, we lost 1%. But they don't do that. They go 100 basis points.
Because they're sensationalizing it.
Yeah, and they're overcomplicating it and and it's a separate language. It creates in cybernetics, it disassociates people, because everyone understands well, not everyone, but most people understand a percentage. But if you say a basis point, that disassociates people from what we're actually talking about, and it just flies over their head and they can't even figure it out.
Everything okay? I can make it work. How long do you need?
I mean, literally a few minutes here. Not long.
All right, go for it.
I don't know. I'll leave it at that for now. We'll see. I'm not really sure what I can do right now. I mean, she's TVing and she doesn't. I mean,
you got to get her.
Mama, it's a part of the problem.
Go get a towel with some cool, like a nap. Like, what is it? Like a washcloth.
Mm-hmm.
And get her to chew on that, and it's cool. And then freeze it, put it in there, and she can chew on it. That's what I did for Phoenix.
Let me type that. I'm gonna send her that.
Found some moas.
All right. Well, we'll just keep going. That wasn't too long, so I'll keep going for a minute.
Yeah.
All right. So asset identification. So yeah, if you got to look at, from the financial standpoint, finance is it's really principled around debt. But it's also about collateral. You go to a bank, you get a loan, you got to put up collateral. Typically people use their house as collateral. Collateral is the core asset. Collateral is what you want to identify in a system. How do you identify collateral? Well, you have to get people into a situation where they need to draw loans from banks. And now you have it's not just the money. Money is also information. Money tells you where it's coming in from and where it's going out. It's the blood in the circulatory system. You can identify arteries, choke points, sources. It's more valuable than gold or any other asset you could imagine. If you have that kind of information at that scale, you can control the world. And that's what's happened.
Yeah. Well, if you know where the money's going and you know where it's coming from, then it's an incredible data stream. That's why they say budgeting is so important. Which is just one thing the government can't do, run a budget.
Well, they can. It's just they're hiding it on purpose for other little side gigs they got going on, that if the people found out about it,
they get pretty pissed. And that's the thing that blows me away with Doge. Is they're exposing everything I've always knew they were doing. They just put a name to it. All these people are...
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. They are. I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan of the concept. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So,
the problem is a lot of this is done legitimately. They've gotten Congress to enact in law, because congressmen are, if you've ever met one, there's only a few that I really like. I've met Louis Gohmert. I've talked to him a bunch of times, had dinner with him. He's awesome. I love Louis. Louis is a real
Louis Gohmert's would be a cool guy to meet.
Yeah. No, he's fantastic. He's a sweet guy. His heart is in this, and he is broken heart. He's a broken man. Not broken in the sense that he's lost it. He's just, to say, there's no words to describe the level of disgust he has for the whole thing. He operates with a limited information stream, but he was in that for the real thing, for the real reasons. He was also a judge. People forget that. So he was a good judge too. Really good judge. I actually live down the street from the only good judge in the Supreme Court of Texas. He lives about 10 minutes from me.
Really?
Yeah, he's a good guy. Really good guy. But that's the problem with this. I could count on both hands the amount of solid people we have in the state of Texas that are actually spiritually don't want to just be self-aggrandizers and take and steal from everyone. All these other people, it's not that they want to be bad people. They just don't think like that. They don't care. They're so ruled by fear and control and making sure they have their place. The consequences of their actions, it's not even in their world. They don't even think about it. And they're all compartmentalized, and they only see little segments because they're so busy all day, like the rest of us. It's why it takes madmen like us on the internet yelling at each other to even figure out a little bit of what's happening here. Anyway, I'll keep going.
Well, yeah.
So asset identification, then you got economic destabilization. So this is where you have events happen like '08, which causes massive fear in the markets that causes things to go up and down really quick.
Yeah.
And if you have the timing of that, you know when to buy down low and you know when to sell up high. Okay? And that's how the house always wins. Okay? The stock market's a giant casino. It's always been designed to be that way. It was started in Venice by these Venetian bankers that started this whole thing. And
I started looking into that, and that was interesting. We're talking about the Venetians, and then they went to up into the
Holland, the Dutch. Yeah, they went from one swamp to another swamp to another swamp. They love their swamps. And then they made a swamp.
Yeah, and then they made one.
Yeah, there's something about being surrounded by mosquitoes all day that does something to their minds, I suspect.
Well, don't you think it's interesting they like being surrounded by mosquitoes when they're a bunch of bloodsuckers?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not even kidding when I say that. I really think that does something to your psychology. When you're surrounded by parasites, you kind of become what you surround yourself by. I wonder if, honestly, mosquitoes are to blame for this whole problem we have. I'm not sure, because it's amazing how these people came up with this system. It's genius. You have to respect it. And we all fall head over heels into it. The more educated you are, the more you fall into it. It's so diabolical. I can't even. It's the biggest, and this is an out in the open air conspiracy. This is not a theory. This is out in the open. This is what is happening. And everyone knows it. We just don't want to admit it to ourselves.
Well, because if you admit it, it's going to become true.
Yeah. No one wants to actualize this and realize it, because if you realize it and you follow the logical progression all the way up, you're like,
well, yeah.
What have we done, and what world have we built for our children? What chance do they have? And anyway, all right, go ahead, sorry.
I always have wondered my whole life how nice it would be to be one of these, like, not to be crude, but, like these white trash people that you see walking around, just don't give a crap, smoking cigarettes and worried about the local gossip and the...
I fantasize about being homeless all the time. I'm with you for sure. I would love just to wander off and not just forget about all this stuff and stop trying to play this game. Oh my God.
Yeah, but it's like I go for a walk every morning and I'm like, how can these guys just walk across the street? They don't even look. They just walk across. And it's just like, even though I'm like the ultimate, I hate rules, I still will go to the button and push it, even though no one cares anymore.
Yeah. I mean, and a part of it goes, do you want to make, because I'm not a total anarchist in the sense of, I don't believe, like, systems are good. I'm not anti-system. Systems can be good. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anyone who runs a business knows this. If you want everyone to do well and make money, do a good job. If everyone does a good job and you, especially the leader, leads by example, things tend to work out better. for everybody, including the clients. It's win-win-win-win situation where everyone walks away happy. That's the idea. That's what prosperity means. It's where, but in this world, there's not a lot of industries left that's not true. I give the service industry a bad rap because it's been artificially created. Specifically service, where I'm not producing a good. I'm just providing.
Like a server?
Yeah. The VIP section at one of our top golf courses down here.
You're providing, your labor is the service.
Yeah, exactly. But it made their experience better, and they had a better day for me being there. And I could measure that because everyone's intuitive. I'm very intuitive with people. I can tell when people are, it's not even a special power. I'm just very sensitive to it. It's just a lot of people numb themselves and don't give a shit because they've been hurt by the world so much. They stop caring about what other people think. But I know when I'm providing value to somebody's experience during the day. And that makes me feel like, oh, I didn't waste my day today. This was a good day. I would figure out other ways to make their day better. And then guess what? You get tipped more, That's a good deal. That's a win-win-win situation.
It's exactly what they talk about and how to make friends and influence people.
Yeah, and I kind of got that from my dad in 7 Habits of Highly. 7 Habits it's a self-help book, but it's really good.
Yeah, I've read it. It's pretty good.
It's very true in my life. I find that the win-win situation thing. If you aim your life at creating the win-wins, you can sleep at night. Well, I can't, but that's for other reasons. But
well, yeah, you got two kids under 2.
Well, that, and also I'm an existentialist, and I have to understand what the meaning of everything is, and that's a curse, so you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it. But, unfortunately, we're going to have to go through that filter. People are going to have to deal with that because everything is caught up in this system, including the churches, including everything is caught up in this. And they don't have the spiritual awareness anymore to see it. They're just in it. Anyway, well, that's a whole other thing. Let's move on. Economic stabilization, you create collapse, you create volatility, ups and downs in the market. You know the timing. You grab assets as quickly as you can. And if you look at the amount of wealth transfer that's been going on in the last 30 years, it's in terms of like the few people that have been grabbing all the assets and the equity in the market specifically, because the stock market creates liquidity and equity. It makes it easy to buy companies. You just go click, buy, done. You don't have to make deals. You don't have to make contracts. It's all done automatically and boom. And now you got AI running this. It's like, what chance do people have? And this is why people have been talking about universal basic income, because these guys at the top are like, well, we got to give them some. We can't steal everything. They're all going to starve and kill us. So we got to give them.
Well, we can't
something.
have the peasants coming after us now.
Yeah. So how do we placate the peasants first, and also take every bit out of them that we can without blowing our cover? And this is a part of the kill chain. His version of the financial kill chain. We'll get to step 7. And that's what step 7 is. So debt for asset swaps, that's what we're just talking about. You stretch people out. Through this process, it creates price inflation. And, wages don't really go up. People just end up using debt as a tool, which exposes them to having their assets taken away from them. Go ahead.
The thing I love is when they come up and they keep devaluing the currency, and they keep raising the when you devalue the currency and you keep giving them raises and everything costs the same, it's just you're actually making less and less, and they hide it. When they started the minimum wage, it was 75 cents an hour, which was back in the 1930s, I think, and this is just my understanding. You get 3/4 ounces of silver, which What is this price of silver right now? Let's see.
20 something. 27.
Let's see. Silver. Okay. Silver is $32.88 an ounce.
Damn, that much already? Wow. That went up in the last few months. I haven't really been watching it. I just buy hard coins if I ever buy it. Even that's a fool's errand to a certain degree, but it does preserve some value.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is, so 32, yeah, it's the equivalent of $24 an hour, 3/4 of an ounce of silver when they started it. So now they keep raising the minimum wage, and they keep devaluing your labor. Now what is the federal minimum wage is $7 an hour? So they've made your labor cheaper by devaluing it.
Yeah. And this is not hyperbole. We are debt slaves. And we've known this for a long time, but we haven't actuated it in our minds because America, especially in America, we have this old system. Every man has his castle. We own our land. We're free people. Freedom, freedom, freedom. They just push that. They love pushing that message out because they cannot have this population realizing that they're a bunch of serfs. Even though everyone knows it deep down, it's just we want to come and take it. We want to be tough guys and act like we run everything and we rule our own destiny. And the reality is it's possible, but only if you're not naive.
Yeah.
And even then, and I mean, I know all this and I haven't figured out how to get out of it. I'm trying to. Just from under their boot. How do I live as free? And that's why a lot of this comes to, spiritual reality. Just in the Soviet Union, when people had everything stolen and taken from them, how did they maintain their dignity and composure as human beings? It's why the Russians are so strong. And why they're so strongly Christian is the notion of your personal interfacing with the divine and that no man can take that from you. That's what kept them afloat. And they believed that and lived it out. And that's why they survived as a civilization. It's why they will survive. And it's why America will survive, by the way, because we have that. We do have that. It's just deep. It's going to take a lot of pain for people to reawaken to that, we're in the middle of that happening. So.
Oh, okay. We've gone off on the wrap. So let's finish this one topic up.
Yep. Extraction, exploitation, wealth is drained through profit extraction. That is currently underway. Step 7 is the one they're trying to implement, and that's abandonment and collapse. And you let the whole system collapse, break up into multiple segments, and then you basically create a whole nother, this whole notion of civil war and the American continent splitting up into different cooperations and countries. If we do that, it's just like the Civil War. If you create that divide over here, it allows the bankers in Central Europe that are running this whole operation it's divide and conquer. Classic divide and conquer. It's way easier to take over that system. And the bankers, I say, they're over in Central Europe. They're internationalists. It doesn't take long to get on a plane and go anywhere. They're citizens of the globe. They're globalists. That's where globalism comes from. That idea that, we run the planet. They basically brag that they run the planet, but then yet we all have these nation states. So basically what is coming to is that this is fascinating. I don't know if we're going to get to this, but I'll leave this up in case people want to read it. I highly recommend you follow this guy. He explains it way better than I can.
Text me his links, and I'll put him in the description. And the books you want when we get done. I'll put that all in the description.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll do that. But it's At this point in time, yes, there's a bunch of families that have been running this, a bunch of banking families that are kind of just doing what they've been doing for thousands of years. And it's a business model to them. They don't care about everyday people that they're destroying lives. That's not on their balance sheet, So how are they going to even see that? All they're looking at is spreadsheets. They don't care about quality of life or how this causes marriages to dissolve or how people go to fake wars and spend their lives and lose their limbs, have PTSD and have horrible things happen. The amount of third order effects that have come from this scam, which is what it is, that's literally what we just laid out. It's a giant scam of exploitation, and everyone wants to blame the Jews. They're out in the open. You don't need to blame the Jews. They literally have logos and banks, and you can follow the money and see exactly who these people are. There's no theory here. You just got to look. People just don't look. It's easier to say it's the Jews. Yeah, there's Jewish banking cartels. There's Italians, there's French, there's Germans, there's English, not really. The real English families have been knocked out a while ago, but there's people that have been swayed into the EU paradigm of a unified global order. And a lot of those families have turned over to that centralized system because they're, I'll keep my seat at the table and we'll all be partners. What I think has happened is a lot of the smarter ones and maybe less wealthy ones have realized we're not going to get a seat at that table. They're coming for all of us. And we're all going to be screwed unless we stop and kill these people off. When I say kill, I mean kill off their energy supply, these debt entrapments once and for all. And we create borders around our countries again and protect what's in
individual sovereignty goes a long way.
Yes. And I think, and one, that's a smart thing to do if you really want wealth generation and you want to maintain everything. You can't allow for a global bureaucracy to run everything. It doesn't work. Even if you put some super AI god in charge of everything, it's not there yet. Maybe it will be down the road. It probably will be, honestly. And we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. But in the meantime, to stop that, the new great game is in the Arctic Circle. Okay? Who's in the Arctic Circle? Yeah, I was
reading about how I've been reading a lot about the Arctic Circle.
Let me talk real quick. I'm gonna show this real fast. Share this. Describe the great. Here we go. I love grok. It's amazing.
It's addictive.
For stuff like this that's very specific, it's so good. Wait, hang on. It's better than OpenAI. I can't do it there. Oh, here we go. Describe the great game. Okay. Rivalry, geopolitical competition, British and the Russian Empire for supremacy of Central Asia, influence over regions like Afghanistan, Persia, and the surrounding areas of 19th, 20th century. The term. So basically, long story short, it was the British Empire, which includes America, folks. Whether you like it or not, you have been a part of the British Empire. Okay. The revolution never really happened the way it seemed like it happened. The one thing we got out of it was our Constitution. They were able to get that document in place. But once Hamilton brought the banking system in, people don't know this, but we were funded by the French and the Dutch.
Yes.
For our revolution. So we were indebted from the beginning to these same banking cartels that we're indebted to today. To fight the British, which was in their interest to split up the continent, to come back in and shovel in their assets, their nodes of their networks, to take back control of the continent that they had lost due to the military prowess of the British and the colonialists in the French and Indian Wars. So they're pretty pissed off about all that. And now what do we see in Canada? A continuation of the French and Indian Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really today. It's happening right now. But so the great game was control over the Eurasian landmass. When we look at the Eurasian landmass, do you think we as Americans or the British could ever control the Eurasian landmass? They tried. It's
Germany
too many people.
Tried several times.
Why would we even want to? It's ridiculous. Why would we want to administrate that kind of territory with that many different people groups and all that shit going on? What's better? Multipolarity. Let everyone go back into their corners and everyone manage their own segments. That includes China. China's not going away. China is just going to be there. China is thousands of years old. They have a long-ass memory. They're not going anywhere. The Russians, similar situation. That's the Slavs, the Balkans, Eastern Europe, falls under their sphere of influence. They'll manage the security for that. The Chinese will manage well, that's kind of up in the air right now because there's a segment in America that does not want the Chinese to manage the Pacific. There's a segment in America that looks at America as the Pacific power, that we manage the trade routes in the Pacific. And something very interesting happened recently. Xi, who never has done this before, went to Southeast Asia, Vietnam, did a whole tour and did public speeches, basically telling them, you start making deals with the Americans, we're going to cut you off.
Mm-hmm.
He's never done that. So there's a weird tension between that tension between America and China. Like, I'm saying that China will be a major player. The question is who runs it is kind of up in the air right now. And I think that's a play that's being played right now.
Yeah.
But what's a big part of the major trade route going to be? Well, if we got really good icebreaker technology now, and Trump just ordered about 50, 70 icebreaker ships.
He really?
To be in production. The Arctic Circle is going to be our new primary trade route. It's really
I know the
fast.
Russians are gearing up for it.
Well, if we take Canada, and who's talking to us right now, who's flirting with America? Alberta.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty pissed off with Ontario and all these French mother effers, these WEF mother effers, trying to do all this stuff. There's all this soft work that's been going on. There's a land bridge politically that goes right down to our country. If we don't even need to take over Canada specifically, but if we make a deal with Alberta to build a road straight up through Alaska, big commercial road.
Well,
now we've got transit from the Arctic Circle, China, Russia, managing security, Southeast Asia, through the shipping lanes, and we just cordoned off Europe. That's what
that's the reason he wants to get Greenland too.
Exactly, and Greenland cuts off that section too. Fortress America, boom. It's what should have always happened. But the Continentals in Europe, I always thought it was the British. It kind of was the British, but the British royal family had been hijacked a long time ago.
Well, they're German.
The English people.
But what are the English royal family? They're Germans.
Yep. They're Germans.
So.
Yep. But I also wonder in the modern day that, and this is what he speculates, that the family today is realizing the shame that they've brought to the English peoples, Queen Elizabeth specifically. Her namesake is Elizabeth I.
Mm-hmm.
What did Elizabeth do? She did a lot of amazing things under her reign. When your name's Elizabeth, you're always thinking about the person before you. That's how these lineages work. It's like a reincarnation cycle.
That's why they're the popes still do it too. They change their name to whatever the 15th.
Yep. It's why all the big families do it. You name your firstborn after the patriarch of the family, and on it goes. On and on it goes. And it works. That's not crazy to do. That makes total sense. It's just not a lot of people have much of a lineage to pass on to their firstborn, so they don't really think about it too much. So that's in a nutshell what I think is going on. And to me, at this point, those dominoes have already been flicked, and I don't think there's any stopping it. I think Europe is about to be cordoned off. The question is, are they going to blow up the whole planet or unleash some holy hell on everything and throw the chessboard up and start throwing their toys out of the pram and freaking out?
The thing I find interesting is you talked this morning when we were on our phone call about all the guys wearing blue, pissed everyone off. That was interesting.
I went back and looked at that footage.
Mm-hmm.
And let me clarify. So Trump wore blue. Everyone got really mad at the Pope's funeral because he wore blue and you're supposed to wear black at the Pope's funeral. Okay, so everyone's very angry about that. The other person who wore blue was Prince William.
Yeah.
Now, I've been scanning that footage. I don't see the King and Queen of England, of Spain did not wear blue. They wore black. The only people I saw thus far was England and America wearing blue, the maritime powers. We really are the maritime powers. China's trying to become a maritime power. Not really. But do you know where the bulk of our forces are right now? Our most lethal forces are stationed? Greece. You know who has the most powerful... Yep. Well, Italy and Greece, I should say. But we've been having some major conferences in Greece lately that are very under the... they're public. You can go look them up. But they are not advertised. Yeah, we are making... Because you know what happened to the Greeks? 10, 12 years ago? The Germans...
economy collapsed?
Exactly. And the Germans over-leveraged them. And basically the EU bought up all their assets. They don't even own the Parthenon anymore. The EU does.
Really?
Yep. They went through the kill chain process. They looted that country. Yep. So they're pretty pissed off. And they have old networks. The Greeks, their trade networks. Who ran the Mediterranean before the Romans? The Greeks.
Yeah.
They have very old networks.
Athens and all that stuff. Well.
Yep. And the Phoenicians tied into that. I know they're not Greeks, but the Phoenician networks are all a part of that, which basically is that island around the Mediterranean. So there's been major deals I suspect, being made with the Greek. Because what do they have to lose at this point? They've been looted. And there's still managers there. Why wouldn't they go like, yeah, sure, why not? We'll provide a security guarantee for the Mediterranean. That sounds like a good deal. We can start rebuilding our country from that. That'll work. They have the biggest navy by far in the EU, bigger than the English.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now the British have let their shit lapse long time. Because why? Because we were the British, according to the bankers who ran the UK. They just look at America as an extension of the UK. They don't look at us as a sovereign nation.
I heard they were over top heavy too. The British, they have a lot. A general or an admiral for every... There are a lot of admirals there doing nothing. Like every admiral gets a ship.
Yeah, same problem we have. We got more 4-star generals today. We got 5 times as many 4-star generals today that we had at the height of World War II.
Yeah, they've said that.
When we had how many millions of men under contract to go fight and die?
16 million.
Yeah, and how many do we have active service today?
Well, yeah, I think Pete's going to change that shit around real quick.
Yeah, they've been openly advertising that, and that is what the Praetorian Guard. Same thing we started this whole thing with. They control the Nexus.
There's the circle.
Yep. So if these guys are smart and have their heads screwed on straight, they're not a bunch of radicals and they're going to act in their self-interest, what's going to happen is the Chinese government is going to reform and figure out a new way to manage its assets, meaning its people, to cooperate with the Russians and the Americans. We're basically making inroads in South America already. The other guy who did not wear black at the Pope's funeral was Lula, the president of Brazil. Brazil is a big question mark right now. I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Brazil's in a lot of trouble.
Yep.
They're certainly working with
they're
the
flat
Chinese.
They're flat out trying to kill Bolsonaro. Well, this is the thing. The Chinese don't want to give up Brazil, but at the same time, if they can't manage it, they'd rather probably at the end of the day not make enemies of the U.S. and let us manage it. It makes no sense for the Chinese to manage Brazil. Brazil is a Catholic Christian country that is not, it does not jive with this cultural Marxism that's coming out of Central Europe. It's just long term, I don't think it's going to work for them. So at the end of the day, I think the American empire will still be there in the sense that we're going to be the managers of the Western Hemisphere. And because Americans are predispositioned to have partners and we don't want to just parasitize and destroy everything, we want a sustainable growth model, I think these other countries will come on board with that.
Well,
Canada's
we're
a big
definitely
problem
trying to get
for
closer.
now.
I think Trump is really trying to get more back towards the Monroe Doctrine like we were back during the early part
It's
of
like
the country.
Monroe Doctrine on steroids.
Yeah.
It's like hyper super Monroe Doctrine. Like, and because but the thing is that we're a civilizational memory of the English Empire. And, you know, Trump went over, and there was a lot of hubbubaloo about Trump going to visit Queen Elizabeth before she died. EM thinks that, and this has been, I heard this from multiple people, but people suspect that Queen Elizabeth knighted Trump to basically protect her of the realm, and that basically he is the instrument of which the English are going to finally take back its sovereignty as a civilization. It doesn't mean that Americans are going to be English. That's not what it means, or be a part of, we're going to have our own deal. We'll manage our own counties, our own states. Every state in America is effectively its own country. But as far as a civilization goes, I think one of her final legacies, if I were in her shoes, what I would want would be to rebuild the English and make it a civilizational memory on the planet. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
We're perfectly positioned for it. There's nothing else. What else is going to do it? The Spanish civilizational memory, the French, the South. What other civilization do we have over on this hemisphere that could be a cohesive bond between all the countries down here? Common law, every man has his own rights. It utilizes labor in a way that brings dignity to the individuals. Yes, there's a hierarchy. We have people on top, and we got the middle managers and people down here, but we are cohesive as a civilization.
Yeah.
If after EM described it that way, I have to agree. That to me is the logical outcome of everything we're seeing, which is amazing news.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
The question is, how much of a tantrum are our enemies going to throw in the meantime? Because I don't think we have to worry too much about China right now. China is overextended, and I don't think they have any interest in governing the Western Hemisphere. I think they took advantage of all the marketing opportunities over here to siphon as much wealth as they could out while they could. I would do that if I were them. Why wouldn't you? If you got a bunch of corrupt governments over here, just come in and buy their elites off and siphon as much out as you can. Build up your own country. But do they want to govern over here? Do you know how much work that takes to govern countries? You either got to kill everybody or govern them. You got two choices.
Well, just ask anyone who went to Iraq or Afghanistan. I mean, they're nation building
exactly
over there.
Yeah, we've learned this lesson like in a microcosm. Now we're not talking. Now I'm going to talk about rinky-dink Afghanistan. We're talking about the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah,
half the planet.
And we weren't doing a real good job. I mean, what did they say? We lost 7,000. We lost between 7,000 and 9,000, depending on how you consider the estimates, between Afghanistan and Iraq. And they're saying in Afghanistan, I think it was like 22.
Well, that's not even
24.
including contractors. I mean, it was over 30. The contractors are the ones who took the heat.
I understand, but
for
our nation,
the point is, yeah.
Our military lost 7,000. We don't even, we could save maybe 20,000 with contractors and everything. I don't know those numbers, but you take 7,000, and that's not an exact number. That's just an estimate. And I think they said we killed in Afghanistan and Iraq, like between 24 and 25 million people.
That high, but I mean, in Iraq, the official number I heard was over 1 million. It doesn't, either way, at that point, it's like, Jesus.
See.
Afghanistan wasn't so much big army. That was more like they had it's the amount of action that's taken place in the last 100 years. We're still trying to catch up to the last 200 in terms of what happened. It's going to take a minute. And the first thing to die in warfare is the truth. Like, everyone starts lying the moment boots hit the ground.
Yeah.
Or well before that, I should say.
Yeah, well,
But anyway, the point is
I'm getting
I
it.
think this... Go ahead, sorry. Yep.
What I'm saying is, first, when you look at it, it's like, why do these people have to die? Well, so we could make money. And I'm a capitalist, and I like making money. Okay, so it says right here, 4,431 service members died in Iraq between 2003 and 2010. Iraqi civilians that were killed range between 100,000 and 600,000 Iraqi military deaths, and between 150 and 200,000 civilians died. I'll have to get more firm numbers, but we got off on that. I'm just saying that I'm just tired of people dying for nothing, man.
Well, Spendley Butler called it out. War is a racket, always has been, always will be. Well, there's very few real wars. In the opening statement that I said that this is the only real war that matters right now is us decoupling from cordoning off these vipers of Venice that started in Venice and these bankers that have been running this deal for the last 1,000 years, and cordoning them off and cutting off their energy supply chains and bringing autonomy back to the nation states. Who are the ones to do it? Unfortunately, folks, it's going to be the royals. They're the only ones that have the vested interest to do this. And I think that's what they're doing. And I think the Europeans are going to come around once they see this model working. Because everyone hates these people. Everyone hates them. There's no one on the planet that likes these people that have done this. They've caused every bit of devastation and destruction in the 20th and 21st century, 19th and 18th century. It's all been managed through the Dutch and Venetian banking systems. That's your enemy. It's not the Jews. It's not some people group. It's these people. Those are your enemies. And if you're smart enough and you're at the high levels, you know that. There's no way they don't know this. So they're either on their side because they're scared, and there's a couple that probably aren't as scared. And the ones that I'm more confident in are the ones that are effectively islands. The UK, they got a whole moat around them, and America. And I think the old English Empire is... Yep.
Official military deaths. There were 4,431 service members died in Iraq. 2,354 died in Afghanistan. In Operation Enduring Resolve, 111 people died. Service member died.
Yeah. And then what people don't think about is the second order effects of all this. People losing their homes, PTSD, mental problems, economic instability.
Oh, wow.
It's
so
catastrophic.
They're saying insurgent deaths, there were 26,500 people, insurgent deaths, 1,000 active duty military in Iraq. That was the Iraqi army.
Yeah. And if you ever talk to people that were in the middle of firefights or airstrikes or things like that, the idea of getting a body count out of that.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Well, it's like I remember during the initial invasion, I was talking to one of my, I was trying to get into the army. I was talking to this recruiter. And he was saying, I was supposed to do a body count when these guys were suicide bombers. And we think there was 5 people that were there at the beginning. But we found only enough parts to put 3 together. So how do you count all that?
It's like, you're going to do DNA samples in everyone, or you hip shoot it and you guess. Or you don't even, and then are you incentivized to do a high body count? In this war, you were not. You were incentivized to lower your numbers. You did not want to admit that civilians died.
Direct deaths. There was approximately 15,000 contractors killed in Iraq.
Yeah.
In Iraq.
Yeah. In just Iraq, yeah. No, it's a lot. We lost probably 30 to 30. The numbers I saw were about 30, 35, including servicemen, between contractors and servicemen, which contractors are effectively servicemen. I mean, mercenaries are way easier to use in wars like this. There's a lot of, for legal reasons. There's a lot, because they could just go away.
Oh, 15,000 altogether. 7,000 U.S. troops and approximately 8,000 they call them private contractors.
Yeah.
But anyways, we got off on a tangent there.
No, I think we're about to wrap up. I think that's good.
Yeah, we're both really tired, so.
Yeah, but that was really good. I think that the point, me kind of talking this out, is kind of really helped crystallize. I think this is actually what's going down. This makes everything I've learned line up. I think this is a strategy. We're going to know real soon. Like within the next year or two, there's going to be major signals whether or not this is the case. We're going to know. Yeah. So it's either that this is happening or we've been sold out again and we're being reconsolidated into the giant glob that runs the planet. So one of those two things are going to happen.
Exactly.
But based on what our enemies are saying, they've already admitted that the global order is dead and that we're in a multipolar system. Klaus Schwab said that a year ago. What the hell does that mean? It means exactly what we just laid out right now. That's what it means.
Exactly.
Now they got to change their economic model, and I really hope.
Well, Trump putting all those tariffs on there is just like, what a genius stroke. Like, dude.
Yeah, and what's more genius, and this is kind of why the QAnon people may be more right than wrong. I hated the whole QAnon thing because I'm trying to get people to just sit down and just sound crazy to people, but because there was no real tacit information, they were all reading signals and trying to read the tea leaves and nothing substantial. But the reality may be that they may end up being more right than wrong. Now, the thing is, you can't tell the American people that this is an English operation.
Yeah. What's Tehran?
That would piss them off.
What was that you're talking about? Tehran? Or what was that?
No, the QAnon folks.
QAnon. Okay, what's QAnon?
Yeah.
Well, we can do that another.
Do you honestly not know?
I've heard it, but I don't know what the definition is.
Okay. It's based, real quick, it's like conspiracy theorists, boomers on the internet, going like, Trump's playing 4D chess with these people, and this is a giant operation. Turns out they might be right. It's just not exactly what they thought it was going to be, but and it's not Trump running this. This is another faction. And now that I can see the royal family the royals of like the maritime powers starting to line up behind him quietly. Now I'm like, oh, you look at the financial kill chain, you're like, this actually makes sense. Because you don't have to be a good guy to do this.
I've always tried to figure out what the end game was. What are they trying to get? And this kind of puts it all together.
I think it does. This made this click really hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think this might be it. Now, there's more depth to this, and there's so much background to this that we could spend forever talking about the background to all this. But right now, and I'm learning, and I could be wrong, if I were to make a guess, this is my best guess as to what is happening. And we're going to find out very soon, like in the next couple of years. So it's going to be wild. Shit's going to start blowing up. India and Pakistan, as soon as this stuff, well, that's kind of the thing with Israel. It's kind of, they've set all these detonators around the world ready to trigger them in case of emergency of something like this happening to start a global conflagration. But if you're watching what the Indians are doing, they look belligerent when you read the media, but when you look at the actions, it's pretty measured. They're not going off the hill. It's like Putin with the Ukraine situation. I was shocked when I saw their strategy was doing a slow creep. They're basically doing an artillery creep. In World War I, the strategy was you shoot a bunch of shells off at different distances. You move your troops up in a creeping barrage. The Russians loved that tactic in World War II because they had horrible targeting. They couldn't hit shit. Yeah. So They just go mass, like boom, 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 move on up. They could have rolled Kiev 2.5 years ago. They didn't. They've been very careful. It's been very interesting to watch. I thought, like, because we were this close to getting blown off the face of the earth, everybody. So just say your prayers and thank Jesus Christ that you're still alive tonight.
Well, when they were sending ICBMs in to fight just to see how they work, that was scary as shit.
And there's going to probably be more, because when you start cornering these rats, Spain and Portugal just blacked out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
They have a lot of ports. They're on the Atlantic. The royal family is very popular with their people. And the word is that the princess is talking with Baron Trump right now.
Yeah, I was reading about that. That is interesting.
If you lock in Spain, who's been ravaged by this kill chain already. If you go to Spain, it's a third world country. It's been devastated. They've also been devastated by the green lobby. 56% of their nation's power comes from reusables, solar, wind. And then they buy the rest from, guess where? France.
Yeah.
Pretty much. It's so beautiful once you see it. You're like, wow, this is so cool to watch. They have no cards, is the thing. They other than hitting fail-safes and killing off countries and shutting on power through cyber attacks or nuclear warfare or massive just killing a bunch of people and throwing a tantrum, that's all they can do at this point. Is just try to scare people.
Yeah.
We'll see if it works.
It's definitely working.
I don't think it will. I don't think it will.
Well, I guess time will tell.
I think they've pissed a lot more people off than they've scared.
Well, yeah.
We'll see.
Well, on that note, I think we could probably call it.
Yep, that's a good note.
Because it's getting pretty late where you are. It's almost 1 a.m.
Yep, that's all right. This was fun. All right, no fear,
okay,
folks.
Well,
we're gonna be all right.
Look in the description for for the books that are recommended by Collin. He'll send me a list of books and I'll put them in the description. And he'll also give you we'll give you some links to the to some of the people you follow on X, and that'll all be down in the description. I wanted to tell you guys thank you for coming to the turning, and thanks for going down our rabbit hole. I guess does that sound like a good catch slang for you there, boss?
It's your show.
Well, anyways,
yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was fun.
Does it ring a bell in your heart? Does that sound good?
It rang a bell in my head.
All right, that's good enough.
I'm just trying
to... It's a mirror, so that's good.
Just look for this information in the description, and we'll go from there. And then we'll do another podcast here in a week or so, and we're going to keep this going and hopefully go somewhere. We'll see where God takes us.
Next week, a lot of interesting things are happening in the Vatican that tie directly to what we said. So maybe that's what we talk about. I got more research to do on that, so we'll see. But
yeah, you'll bring your research and we'll show you. Yeah,
I'm excited for that one. That's going to be very fun.
I'm excited for that too. I just need to set up. This is just setting up the groundwork so that we can go on to the next one.
Right on.
All right, y'all. All right. Thanks for watching.
Good job.
And we'll stand by for our next one.